Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show, Week 4, Sunday NFL props. And I've got a lot of looks here for you guys. 12 players we're running through in alphabetical order of first name. Really no preference to these. Don't have bets down for all of these. Have some of these down already. If you don't want to miss a single bet, make sure you head over to landyourbets.com. Check everything out we've got up on the site right now. But I want to make sure you also know about these Swish Land projections. Swish and I are making sure that we compile the best ones for you each week. Those are up on the site, and I'm going to go through a bunch of those right now. So if that all sounds good, give this video a like. Let's get right into it. Still looking at Bijan Robinson receiving here. He is still super heavily involved in an offense that's kind of anemic when it comes to the pass game because Michael Penix has not been it. But that has helped Bijan be an even bigger focal point of that receiving game. The bots still like him right at about the number for the receptions. I think the receiving yards are the better play in this game. Sometimes the receptions look better. This one, I like the yards a bit more. He's still looking to get featured consistently by this staff. 5+ targets in every single game. And the snap share is there a ton. We've been worried in the past about him losing snaps to Algier, which eventually just takes him off the field to not get there for passing plays. But at this point, even when it's just run-heavy personnel, Bijan's out there, and he's still a part of that pass game despite the formation that they come out in. So still going to like him at about 25+ receiving yards moving forward. And if you're finding that prop look here, I think the books are still undervaluing him as a receiver. This man is either about to make us look pretty awesome, or he's going to really cost me a few units this week here in week 4. But Blake Corum, backup for the Rams in a matchup with the Colts. And obviously a lot of you want to take Kyren Williams because you're probably seeing that if you look at the rush EPA for this Colts defense, not very good. And you would expect that the Rams are able to get some runs on them. We know they want to run the ball, especially at home. They want to pound it as much as they can. And McVay started to incorporate Blake Corum a bunch more. You can't really look over his 5.8 yards per carry and not try to get him involved in the offense a bit more. Plus, Kyren Williams has been one of the most overworked backs in the league for the last 3 years. This seems like the right time to really bring Blake Corum on and give him a few more touches, which McVay has done. 8 carries last week, and that was in a game where, yes, they were winning up by 17 at one point, but they're still going up against the rush defense of Philly, and this dude's still able to get himself some yards on those 8 carries. So I think this is still going to be a pretty positive script for the Rams, and even in a neutral script, we know they want to run the ball, and Blake Corum is getting a bunch more snaps, so I think his opportunities are going to remain pretty high for the Rams. Back to Daniel Jones we go. Made us look really good last week. I didn't really quite know exactly why the bots loved him other than the obvious, right? Like this offense has been really good. The Titans defense last week wasn't very good at all. This week, definitely like him more on the passing against that Rams team that we just talked about for Blake Corum on the other side. Looking at the way that this team probably isn't going to be ahead nearly as much as they have been this season. And if you look at the game where they were not ahead consistently, I mean, they were definitely leading in that game against the Broncos, but ended up needing to come back and win in the end. That was more of a neutral to negative game script, and that's what we expect in this one. In that game, had his highest pass attempts of the season at 34, right? And so the bots are really liking him consistently now. Our Swishland projections at about 21 completions, 31 attempts. He's going to be in that range probably unless he shows a huge dip or a huge rise in his output. The 237 yards really stands out because you can still get like 210 yards for him, minus like 140. But even if it's like 215 or around that number, this is a pretty nice over, about a 20-yard edge that we have here. So I think when you look at this game script, you look at the way that he is playing, the fact that he's going to have to pass more, and he's already been getting over this number consistently that we're seeing for him on most books. This is definitely going to be another look for the passing for me, a bit more than the rushing for Daniel Jones. As we get into Drake May, I wanted to remind you guys, if you do want to check out the site for a free month and get into the behind the paywall and all that stuff, you can sign up for any of the sports books that are scrolling beneath me here. They're all linked in the description of the video. Hit sign up, use that code, and just email us over at support@landyourbets.com. That's the admin email now, so we're making sure we check that every day. If anybody is looking for that free month, this is where you let us know that you signed up for one of the books that we've got partners with, and then we'll go ahead and get you that free month to get all the projections and all the bets that we're making here. But let's look at Drake May once again. Talked about him last week, and I think we got to go back to him because we're still getting a very similar number. Now, I liked the matchup with Pittsburgh a little bit more for his rushing last week, but we're talking about 10 and 7 rushing attempts in the last 2 weeks for him, when we've talked about since the beginning of the season that the staff for these past offense with Vrabel wanted to get Drake May involved in the run game a bit more to open that up for his pass game too, but the designed runs to actually get those yards off the runs, which is why this week the attempts are up on most books. They have it at 5.5. Last week, 4.5 was a great number. He went for 7, also went for 45 yards. And I think we can still get over either, mostly the rush yards, excuse me. This week, I prefer those because I don't like that extra attempt they're making us get here. But if they are in a positive game script against the Panthers too, you get the kneel downs on the attempt. So I can see that, but the rush yards have a really, really nice hit rate over the course of his career at this point. 62% of the games he's played in, he's gotten about 25 plus rush yards. You can still get that number for Drake May. So I'll be looking to go back to him as well this week. This is going to be one of those looks for James Cook where I'm just going, well, the bots are in love with him. It's really hard for me to get past that because I can't find any reason that they'd be wrong. They have him at 18 attempts here on the Swishland projections, 97 rush yards. And you can still get him for like 75.5 rush yards. I might as well just play that alt line to 100 plus for him right now because, like I said, everything that the bots are seeing to give him these projections makes sense to my eye test too, with the matchup against Nolan's, who is right now 31st in our power rankings over on LandryBets.com for a reason. And they can't stop the run, they can't stop the pass, but I don't know that they're going to need to pass. We know that Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator here for the Bills, wants to run as much as he can. And this is another huge spread at home against the Saints. So the interesting thing here is 58% snap share for James Cook. Not very high because he hasn't even had to play like a couple of different quarters at a time because they're winning by so much going into the fourth. That said, he still has a 72% opportunity share, meaning when he is out there, he's getting the ball to run. Like he's not really out there to receive quite as much this year. It looks like he's going to be, ridden into the ground. He's got his contract. They're going to keep giving him the ball. I do think that James Cook is good for rushing here. Probably going to be looking at 100 plus for a little alt plus money. Jordan Love and the legs, like his rush stuff, we've got to like keep going to it. It's really interesting that the numbers for him are like 6.5 rush yards. I think you can still get 3 attempts, like 3 plus for juiced down probably minus 140, 150 for that. But I still think that's good for him, especially when you look at this matchup with the Cowboys. Could get the attempts through kneels, right? Alone, like might get 3 kneel downs, 2 kneel downs, whatever it is. But expect the Packers to come out strong against a really, really bad Cowboys defense. And now the Cowboys aren't getting very much pressure on the quarterback, so that doesn't really bode well for forcing Love out of the pocket, but the design runs have been continued to be there for him. And at the very least, the design rollouts for him that give him the option to go if he wants to. And that's helped him get over the yards pretty easily in the last 2 weeks, especially. So I think 6.5, the bots still like that at 9 yards. Like this man should be able to get 6 yards on 3 rush attempts. I think that's going to be, the yards are going to be my preferred play, but I think the attempts are still a good look. If his name is not pronounced Quinshon Judkins, then that's on me. But I looked this one up multiple times. And for Quinshon, I mean, look, I've been listening to ESPN say his name consistently now, obviously for the last week, especially with a huge game against the Packers last week. This one might be even tougher. We'll see in terms of the Lions matchup here. But I do think this dude's just going to keep getting fed the ball, right? The Browns are just going to continue to rely on this defense. They're going to continue to rely on the run game to hopefully keep their defense off the field for a bit if they can. The Lions still have a similar style defenses last year. They're still going to be really, really good at stopping the run, especially down the middle. But Judkins is going to keep getting used. Like he's the back now. There is no coming in to throw him forward. That's the third down back a little bit more. But if it's a run play, which they're trying to run very consistently here, I think we're going to see Judkins. And look, this is like about it's inside 10 points, I believe, in Detroit for the visiting Browns. They're big dogs, but not as big as they could be after that nice win against the Packers. And the Lions been blowing everybody out. But if this defense comes to play for the Browns like we've seen it, then there should be enough rush attempts here for Judkins to get close to the 50 yards that he's projected at, or his line is at, and the 14.5 attempts for a guy who just came off of 18 attempts. If they're even close in this game, they're still going to be giving him the ball pretty consistently. And back to Rome Odunze we go, because he actually would have had a bigger game last week if the Bears didn't blow out that aforementioned awful Dallas Cowboys defense, right? He did big work in the first half, 2 receptions, 48 yards, and the touchdown on that long one. Probably would have kept getting more targets, but just got quieted in the second half because they were already up by about 3 scores for the majority of that second half. Didn't really need to do much, but he's still going to be a good look for a receiving touchdown. Really love him inside the red zone. That's the intel coming out of Bears camp consistently still from the start of the season until through now. And he's still been continuing to get unleashed by Ben Johnson, I should say. And the way that he's being used, he's still the most targeted receiver on the team and the most targeted deep threat. Maybe we'll see Burden come in and take some of those deep threats from him. But I still like him on the yards and even the receptions. I'll bet about 4.5, 5.5. He's being targeted 7, 10, 9 times. Like he's getting anywhere from 8 to 10 on average other than last week's blowout over the Cowboys. So he's still going to be heavily used. We're still going to take him up at about 65 yards a game. So I like his overs this week. Similar concept for Saquon Barkley in terms of we see him, the bots liking him consistently. We know the intel coming out of Philly is that they want him to continue to get used as a receiver, almost as a way to like keep him in space, not overuse him on the rush attempts. And now he's going to keep doing that, especially if they eventually get Tanks Bigsby in there to get some rushes. But 5+ targets in 2 or 3 games this season. Expect a pretty good matchup here with Tampa Bay, who does keep losing guys on offense, which is tough. And the defense not quite as good as it was last year, but the way that it's schemed up, it still lines up really nicely for running back receptions. Last year, they gave up the 5th most receiving yards and receptions to the running back. This year, they're giving up the most yards to the running back. I still think the receptions are something that we're getting a big edge on via the books, though. They're handing us 2.5 receptions as his line. 3, very, very likely. If he's getting 5 targets, he's catching 3 balls. So I'm definitely looking at the receptions a bit more than the yards. But like I said, Tampa Bay gives up the most receiving yards to the running back spot. This man did me a little bit dirty last week. I'll say the Packers did me dirty and really the Browns, but had him for 40+ yards receiving last week, despite some of the little injury scares that we had heard about him. Now I'm going full in. He's got another week healthy, and we've heard this coming out of Packers camp after practice this whole week. Tucker Kraft has said twice now, Green Bay has to start stronger on offense because they have such a good defense and run game with Josh Jacobs. They need to get the ball into the end zone early so that they can rely on that and not have to worry about passing from behind or rushing from behind, right? They want to play with that positive game script. So I'm still liking him for about 50+. And the Swishland projections like him for 50+. You can get him for 40+ on the receiving yards. I also think he's good for a touchdown. And I'll throw this little ditty out there. I took a little first quarter touchdown for Kraft, who does have one this season, is the main target in the red zone for Jordan Love if they can get down there. I expect them to be able to get down there in this matchup. And this is a dude who has been a little bit quieter than we thought he might be in the last week, especially. Once again, I'm chalking that up to injuries. I'm chalking that up to the Browns defense. And this is another great spot for him. It's a bit of a buy low spot and against a bad defense coming off a game against a really good defense. Another tight end that I told you about last week, I ended up not getting a bet down for Tyler Warren. This week, I've got him in there on the card. 57 receiving yards is what the Swishland projections are looking at for this Rook tight end. He's been a monster. He's absolute monster athlete. It's a dude who could gobble up 4 targets on a drive if we see the Colts needing to put the ball in the air a bit more. And I do think we're going to see that. And this is the dude. Like the wide receivers, especially outside of Alec Pierce, Josh Downs been a non-factor. Michael Pittman been a non-factor. So we've been seeing Tyler Warren, the dude, for this Colts offense, and for Daniel Jones especially. I think this is, you can tell by now if you're looking at the Colts players and Rams players we keep talking about, do like the Rams a bit more in this game, enough so that the game script for the Rams should be a bit more positive. And I think the Colts game script will be a bit more negative, meaning they'll need to pass a bit more to their top target here. So the yards are still very, very beatable. Even the receptions, you can get, I think, over 4.5 for about even money. Tetairoa McMillan. I wanted to bring him up last week, but I didn't like the matchup with the Falcons. Turns out I was right to not bet on him because he went under his prop last week with just 48 yards receiving. But it wasn't because he got shut down. It was because the Falcons got shut down, and then the Panthers didn't need to pass, which was not a game script that I expected, right? You never really put the Panthers in a spot where they're going to be leading and not need to throw to a guy like Tetairoa. And I think they will continue to throw to him. I mean, I know they will. This is their clear-cut wide receiver one now. Already has a 100-yard game under his belt this season with Bryce Young. And last week, like I said, those deflated numbers were just due to that 30-point blowout. But now you get a game that I think will be a pretty good game. I do expect the Pats to take this one, but I do also expect it to be a bit closer than normal if the Panthers show anything similar to what they did last week, especially on defense. Pats offense better right now than whatever Michael Penix is doing. I'll say that. So the pass defense for the Pats, not good. And I do think that they'll be able to take advantage of that a bit here for the Panthers. And I do think right at about 60 yards is a good number for projection for him. And that's about what his prop is at. But I'm not really scared of adding a few more yards to get him over that number in this game. All right, y'all, don't forget, if you want to check out any of these projections or make sure you don't miss a single bet, head over to landyourbets.com. Got the subscription packages on there for you guys, whatever you need. But we are going to be continuing to come back. I'll have that Monday Night Football video up for you. Nate's got his looks for the closing lines here on Sunday. So until we see y'all next, happy betting.